Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good evening to all of those who are live with us on YouTube and Facebook, and good whatever time of day it is to you listening later. We're excited to be on the show, be live, and to be chatting with you. Today, we've got a packed show. We're going to talk about some fun things. We're going to talk about never giving up, or maybe we should. We'll find out. By the time the show ends, we'll know whether we should quit or whether we shouldn't. One of the funny things was that the best procrastinators know what to procrastinate when. And so the idea of procrastination is you shouldn't be procrastinating. Well, maybe we should be procrastinating the right things. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But before we do, please go to our website, preppertalkradio.com/resources, or just go to preppertalkradio.com and click on the resources tab. There's a bunch of things that we have there for you. We've got all of our affiliate links there. We've got our store across the top there too as well, so that you can get some merch. I'm sporting the Ready Man shirt. For those who are watching on live or watching on YouTube, I got the Ready Man shirt. Shane has the Apocalyptimist. And Scott is not got one of the t-shirts on, but you go watch any of our other shows. He's always got one on. Get some merch for us, and we're excited to be here with you tonight. So also join our Facebook group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance on Facebook, and join us there for conversations that we take from the show into the conversations there. And sometimes we'll take the conversation there into the show and talk about that. So Shane actually was the one who presented this topic to us. So I'm going to say, Shane, let's take it away, brother.
Yeah, let's lead off here with practical, right? NEVER, give up until your lungs draw their last breath. Absolutely agree with you. However, I have some arguments to the contrary, but it really all depends on what we're talking about here, because I have some examples that I can share kind of vaguely so as not to offend certain people and such. But I think there definitely are times when it makes sense to give up on certain things in certain times. And that's kind of what I was thinking for this conversation is, and maybe I'm stretching it a bit. When we talk about, because the saying is never give up, right? And I believe that. However, and I think it's not that cut and dried, right? It's a bit of a conundrum. It's it's kind of a contradictory statement. I don't know what exactly to call it. It's a common expression.
Maybe a bit of a paradox.
A bit of a paradox. Yeah, it's
because there are some things. You're right, Shane. There are some things where it's just you need to know when enough is enough. And you've done your best, and it's like the old adage of just shoot the dead horse. Like, don't try to resurrect a dead horse. Like, there's so many things like that it's so important to remember that sometimes you just gotta just say, you know what, I've done it. It didn't work, and move on.
Yeah, and I guess the question is, what are those things? What are those items, right? That where we should give up and when should we not give up, and when is it okay and when is it not? Juxtaposition. Yeah, it's I don't think it's as simple as just saying never give up, because I think if you have that position for everything in your life, like, let me give you a stupid example, or maybe not stupid, but a simple example from my youth. My dad taught us, all of us kids, especially the older ones, how to golf, how to ski. And he taught us well. We had, got a good swing, get good skiing technique, but there came a certain time when my life was too complicated, too much going on. And, I had to consciously say, you know what, I'm either going to focus on golf and get really good at it, which takes a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of dedication, but ultimately is unimportant in my life. Right. And I guess that's kind of what I mean is, and, same with skiing, got decent, I kind of switched to telemark rather than downhill that dad taught us, and bought us skis and clubs as kids. And I'm sure that he was maybe a little disappointed that I didn't necessarily pursue those, which are things he loved. You know, he was a really good skier. He was a good, you know, a decent golfer. And I chose, made conscious decision that I needed to give up. I needed to give up on those things. And, you know, those, like I say, are ultimately unimportant. What is important, right?
I think that's a great idea. Like, you know, think about it in your life right now. One thing for sure that I feel like that more Americans should give up is so much time in social media and so much time in the distractions of
Mm-hmm.
those types of things. Like, if you're spending like the average, I think, is 2 hours on TV and 3 hours on social media. And if you add those two together, that's 5 hours between the two every day. And you don't have, if you gave up on that kind of junk in your input, you know, input equals output comes from what's input. And if you're inputting all that, your output is going to be negative and not what it should be. One of the hardest things for me, it was choosing the career path that I was going to go down, because I could have done anything, kind of like what you're talking about, Shane. I could have been a lawyer. I could have been a doctor. I could have been a myriad of things, but I chose financial service because it was the most passionate for me. So I gave up. Like, I literally had the dean of one of the colleges that I was looking at, who over the law school there was like, you should apply. Like, you have a sharp enough mind that you could be a really good lawyer. And I was like, thank you. I appreciate that. However, I quit that because that's not what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? As I thought about what I wanted to do with my life, I was like, I want to do something different. And I chose what I chose. And sometimes I look back and wonder if I quit the right thing and pursued the wrong thing, you know, but I think those are kinds of the things that you might be talking about, Shane, is just the things that are bringing you what I talk about it in my world of finance and coaching is, what are the things that are bringing you value? What are the habits that are bringing you value? Never give up on those. And the habits that you have that aren't serving you, the beliefs, the behaviors that you have that aren't serving you, are getting you towards your goals and dreams, give up on those. Get rid of those. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
here I was for the hours of investment into this topic that I prepared for. I was researching international law, war crimes. What do we do in war? Like, I'm like, what the F are we talking about? Like, okay, reeling it back to the current discussion that I am fully not prepared for now. Yeah, sure, there's things you should absolutely give up on. But you also have to be wise about what you're doing. Like, in a critical conflict scenario, yeah, there's, you know, Captain Scott Nesbitt is a quote. I quote him a lot. Never give up, never surrender. Right? Does anyone here know who Captain Scott Nesbitt is?
I know you've told us before, but I don't recall.
He's an important historical character in a nonfiction movie in space. No bearing on real life. He's the captain of a spacecraft in Galaxy Quest. It's a silly movie.
Okay, Galaxy Quest. I was almost there. Yeah, I almost figured it out. Yeah.
But like, I'm a homeschooling dad. I get to stay at home with my kids. I work from home, and so I've got this benefit that I get to spend time with my kids. We're covering the battle at Gettysburg. We're talking about the Civil War recently, and in the battle at Gettysburg, there was like approximately 50,000 casualties. That's a lot. There were on the Union side, there was 23,000. On the Confederate side, there was 28,000. The Confederates thought under General Lee, hey, if we come in here and attack this, it'll turn the whole tide of the war, and we're going to then go forward and crush. The reality is they got themselves in an uphill battle, and the Union was up the hill. The Confederates were like, if we can flank them, we got them. But then the Union was smart, and they created this J formation, and they had every hill in a row. And eventually they made some mistakes, but eventually they were able to push the Confederates back to a final battle on a final hill and then just knock them down. And that was the Gettysburg battle, right? Most famous address from a president was the Gettysburg Address. But there was a point where Lee and his generals had to decide, this is a bad idea. We need to retreat. In every battle, there are times to retreat and there's time to attack. But for the war, you've got to fight like there's no other option other than to last breath it, right? You've got to go the whole way. But you have to also be wise in your strategy of what you're doing.
Yes.
And I think that's where I think a lot of us as preppers were like, nope, the end of the line is this, and I'm not making any concessions. I partially agree with that, but I partially have to be like, okay, well, there's caveats, right? Because, and the hard thing is if it's in an actual war scenario, man, those caveats are going to be small and few and far between. But if it's like, oh, making business decisions or I'm going to learn a new skill or I'm going to learn, those decisions aren't life and death. But life and death decisions on when is it right to surrender or give up on something, completely different. And the hard thing is like looking at international law and war crimes and like what's actually prosecuted is crap. They don't do anything to protect you. If a warlord comes in and does whatever they want, they get away with it. That's it. End of day. Hardly anybody ever gets prosecuted and truth comes out and things are corrected, right? You look what happened with World War II. How many of the Nazis who were completely horrible people then went and worked for NASA?
They were recruited. Operation Paperclip or whatever came over to America, right?
Right. And so we have to look at it and say, okay, in any scenario going forward, we have to be very strategic in what we decide to do or not to do.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, Practical, I freaking love you, dude. What would have happened if the Wolverines had given up?
They didn't give up.
They didn't, right?
Well,
most of them died to
Yes.
maintain freedom and liberty.
Yep.
Right. For the rest of us in the movie scenario, right? There will be heroes. And I think we need to train ourselves so that we can defend no matter what. And we also have to realize we're not in the military. So if we're ever in a situation where there is an invader, we're not held to the same standards that the military is held to as far as international conflict.
We can take care of business.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think the beauty about our conversation, we've said this before, is that we come up with a topic, we don't really even discuss it except for maybe a few minutes before we start. And so we each have different perspectives of what this means of don't give up, of never give up, never. So you have you had your perspective, I have mine, Parrish has his, and we try and work that out here on live.
Wrap it all up into one.
Yeah.
And usually it's amazing how it works out. I like it. I think it's
sometimes not so great, but most of the time it does.
We've been doing this for a couple of years and it seems
but let me kind of steer a little more the way I was thinking, right? Is that there are rough times coming ahead. And I'll throw Jason's comment up here on the screen on Facebook that he commented here on Facebook is there are things of value, there are habits that we should quit. If it brings value, pursue it. If it doesn't, bag it. Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with that because I don't think we have much time to waste. Just watching the events, me, I'm the apocalyptimist, right? I'm the pessimist, maybe of the group more so than the other two of you. And so I don't see that there's a lot of time to waste. So I am more willing myself to give things up, and focus on other things of value. Where I know there have been some comments here too. If it's family, yeah, obviously that's one you never give up on. Doesn't matter. Yeah. No ifs, ands, or buts, right? That's just something you never give up on, no matter how far down the road someone may have gone. And that's an easy one, right? But there's a lot that are not necessarily so easy. And I think what I'm seeing again is the Trump effect from his first term. What happened to the prepping industry? What happened to preppers? They put all their trust. I'm not saying everybody, right? They put their trust in Trump and that, he's going to change things, turn everything around. And yeah, things were pretty good. Did a lot of good things, but people stopped prepping. And I see kind of that same thing happening. And my main indicator is obviously, middle to end of last year, we had a lot of people joining our Facebook group, Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance, and now it's died off, just a few a week, right? And so that's
We
one
were
of my
getting, like-
indicators saying people are not concerned about what's going on. They're
We
have a
were
little
getting double
twist.
digits every week last time. That was
Yeah. Yeah, a dozen, 2 dozen, sometimes more a week when things were looking scary and not and people didn't know what was going on. And now it's changed for the worse, if you ask me.
which we predicted. Like we
Yeah,
talked about
yeah,
this
we
last
did.
year. We're like,
Yeah.
if Trump gets elected, we knew that when he gets sworn in, we would see the prepping industry cut. Like they
Mhm.
would. I've seen small businesses already failing now from that election. I saw them happen the time he got elected the first time, and I experienced that firsthand. So it's interesting because, yeah, there's there's a lot less people trying to be prepared right now than ever before. But I have to lovingly disagree. There are family that I don't give a damn. If they decide they're not going to do it and they decide like I don't want to be led to water and I don't want to drink, I'm not going to force them, nor
Yeah.
am I going to feed them and provide them beverage when things go sideways, right?
Yeah, and I think
And-
that's exactly why when you talk about this topic.
Yeah, and there's people like there are other people in my family that I will die and I will gladly give my life to preserve theirs.
Mhm.
Right? Those are my kids and my wife. Outside of that, I will fight for people to help and prepare them, and I will fight for people if needed on the other side of it. But there are certain people who have absolutely been betrayal people who have lied and who use and they
Mhm.
use psychological manipulation on you. Like those people have no inheritance when SHTFs, right? Like
Mhm.
if they come knocking on the door, I'll be like, kick bricks, like
You're like,
kick
who are
rocks
you?
or whatever, like be gone, foul one, right? I'll ask them what is the airspeed velocity of a southbound swallow, and they'll go off the side of the cliff.
African or European?
I don't know. Wow, right? I will be like, sorry, bro, sorry, sis. Like I cannot help you. But there's other people that I'll be like, yeah, come in, 100%, come in. We
Yeah.
will share. But it's
Well,
also a look. I look at their characteristics of their character, their moral compass, and I have to say, okay, if I see them being garbage to people now, when things get tough, their moral compass is going to be so decayed that I cannot trust them. And there are
There's some
people
people.
listening that you know those types of people in your family, your extended family. It might even be your kids. Like my kids are young enough right now that there's like I would do anything for them. And even when they're older, I honestly, if they go against me, I'll still probably do everything I can for them, even
Yeah.
to laying down in my life. Even if my kids absolutely hate me, I don't see a day where I could ever not.
Yep.
Yeah,
so
well, there are people, I believe, and 100%, there are people that are only curbing their desire to do things because of current societal norms and societal
Mhm.
laws. And if those norms and laws go out, they're like, I can't wait to take people out. They can't wait to be malicious or nefarious. And they're just the only reason why they're not is because they're scared of getting caught, and not because they're scared of doing it, but they're scared of getting
Mhm.
caught. And thank goodness for societies like that. But another kind of to throw a wrench in the potential for what we should be quitting is the idea of even politically or emotionally, socially, like what is the hill we're willing to die on? And is it really a hill worth dying on? There are some people that are fighting battles. It's like, bro, let it go, dude. Like,
Mhm.
let that go. You don't need to die on that hill, dude. Like, that's not a hill worth dying on. Take a deep breath, pull back. Like, it's like, and it's kind of funny what my friends, I'm sure I've shared this with Shane and Scott over the years, but it's like, you're in a nosedive. Hey, pull up, bro, pull up. SOS, like get out of that nosedive. You're going to die. You're going to kill yourself over that. Like, bro, come on.
Well,
That's
and
not
then there's
what-
the crabs and the cooker people who they just want to pull you down with them. They're like, oh, we're all dying. No, you can't get out of here. You're dying with us.
Mhm.
yeah.
Like,
It's like quit those
The
ideas.
drowning
Yeah. Those are the things that we're talking about quitting is don't be dying on hills that aren't worth dying on. Another thing too is I have a propensity to be zealous And I just, when I get an idea, I want to just tell the world, and I want to just
Mhm. Yeah.
grab people and just scream in their faces. And I did that for a little while, and I had a negative response, and I learned very quickly that, you know what, like like Scott mentioned earlier, people, you can do everything you want to for somebody, and they're still just gonna say "F you." And you know
Mhm.
what? If that's your stance, I'm okay with, so to speak, washing my feet of you, and letting you just have the consequences of whatever your life's going to lead to because of that. And
Well,
if they have a blessed life, great. If they don't, then it's like you would kind of deserved it.
so in the New Testament, the Lord tells his apostles to go out and teach. And those that will accept you, bless them. Those who will reject you and reject me, dust your feet of them.
Yeah.
Right? Anyone who they have dusted their feet of the Lord, right? Or dusted their feet of morality, dusted their feet of kindness and mutual respect. I can't, in good conscience, go help them if it's at any detriment to my children, to my family.
For sure.
I have to do everything I can to keep my relationship with God good because I know He'll bless my family. But that doesn't mean stop prepping. That means use the greatest gift God has given me, which is intelligence and liberty, to get myself so well prepared and to train my children and wife in such a way that we can be resilient for whatever may come. Right? You've got to be prepared as a household unit first and then extend to a group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your group is your fallback, not your primary. That's
Mhm.
the classic relocation, strategic relocation, the quote bug out, right? You bug out to your group and then you work with all of your resources together and all of your skill sets together. But there's going to be a breaking point of like, okay, when is it time to give up my current location to go to another location and to join my group? I do, and I bring this up because Practical brought up he's got a group of 9 that he's teaching, and 7 of them are like, well, how do I get prepared independent of the group? Right? You've got to be prepared independent of the group first, and then the group is the rally point. After things go sideways, and becomes your stronghold.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, you're putting all your eggs in one basket that you may not be able to access when things go sideways.
Yeah, I've got another. I mean, so much I've wanted to say that goes in and out real quick. So, trying to make notes as I go here. But of course, I want to bring up Sandra's comment here. God first, everything will be added unto you. Absolutely, completely agree with that. We talk God, family, community is something we try and bring up regularly, right? So our first, we talk a lot of motivational speakers talk about getting those negative people out of your life, right? You and only associating with people who uplift you, who make you feel, like you're a better person, right? And obviously, God is the number one who can do that, who does that if you let him into your life. Secondly, I was thinking, I've got someone I know, I won't say a name or anything, who has been in my life, obviously my entire life. And this individual has pulled in a number of other people with him into working on this, trying to get this particular deal done. And I won't go into details, but it has been 20 plus years and he's still working on trying to make that deal happen. And it has never happened. Yet he obviously has the attitude, never give up. I'm going to see this through because if this gets through, it benefits the entire family, right? It's not just for me. He's got a very noble cause. It's going to benefit the entire family for generations, right? But it's been 20 plus years and he's still not giving up on that. And of course, my thought is, he should have given up on this a long time ago. And I can't be specific. I wish I could, but there is a point in work, in many different situations, where it is time to step back and say, I've wasted enough time here. I put enough effort into it and not seeing the fruits. I need to turn my efforts elsewhere, which would have been a great idea to do a long time ago for this individual.
Yeah, that's something that we need to learn as in business too. It's important to learn when to quit.
Hmm.
If you're pursuing something that's not producing the results, you need to shift, make the shift. And it really is quitting, but it's also just dropping something that's not working to pick up something that is working. And so quit things that aren't working and don't hang on. It's too many people, for example, in my world, or where the world I used to really be in more than I am now. I used to be in a world where I was like telling people to buy stocks and mutual funds and other things like that. But when I dropped those licenses, I haven't really done that much. But in my own world, it's like if you purchased a stock and it's going down, 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 down. So many of us are like, no, it's going to come up. It might come back. It might work out. It was up high before. It could come back again. No, dude, just sell that daggummer. Get out from that. Take that money and use it for get into a better deal. Some of us hold, and I'm included. Some of us, by the way, I said us. Some of us hold on to things for way longer than we need to be holding on to them, and it can be to our detriment. And one of the hardest things that I've had to learn is to learn to let go and to learn to let God. And that's something that's been really hard because we want to justify why I want to justify why I bought that stock. So I want to hold it till it, to all the way down. I'm
Yeah.
going down with like the captain going down with the ship. Like there's some honor in going down with the ship, but sometimes, you know what? Hey, let the ship die and get on the boat.
Well, there is that saying in markets, right, that your first loss is your best loss, right? If it's going down, get out, because it could get a whole lot worse. So take your hits first. And and there is something about being in the markets, and this is one of the reasons I'm not in the markets, because I am not smart enough to know when to get out, when to get in, and to not be emotional. It would be hard for me, and to hold on, like you say, to a sinking ship is what most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. So there's a really good question that popped into the group. I'm going to post this up so we can all talk about it. This one came in from Practical. He says, for Scott, Shane, and Paris, what would you do if during SHTF your community turned on you and kicked you out? That is a fantastic. That should be in a card deck called Conflicted. That is such a great question. A lot of us don't like to think about it, but I would love to hear also and give my feedback as well. Guys, what would you do if that happened to you?
I've got an answer.
Go for it, Shane.
Go for it, Shane.
Well, first of all, yes, if they kick me out, I don't want to be part of the group. That's my first reaction. Like, if it gets to where it's that hostile, yeah, I don't want to be part of that. But secondarily, my group, because of the position I'm in, I am the group. I can't get kicked out, right? I am the one who kicks others out if need be, right? And I know you guys are, in the same boat. And so if you get kicked out, I mean, if you're on the verge of getting kicked out, you have to do some introspection and wonder why. But if it isn't for some error of yours, but it's there'd be a plethora of different reasons why, then I would say yes, please. If you don't want me there, I don't want to be there.
So what about the scenario that they don't want you there and they won't let you take your stuff? I wanted to bring up that scenario.
I wouldn't put myself in that situation. I would not be in that situation ever, period. Yeah.
So like you guys, I am the primary resource in my group. I'm the most heavily stockpiled. And we have some people that are out of state that their rally point is to meet back up with us if we're still here. But the reality is what I do disclose, I don't disclose everything of what I have. Right. And I won't, when it's time to bring everything together, I won't bring all of it over at once. It'll be as needed. That way I can keep my stuff separate. But my future is to have a compound. That's what I'm working towards. I don't know if I'll get very far on it, but the goal is to have that be the rally point. But then it's more easily defended, depending on how we can set it up, is the goal. Now, if there are people that try to kick me out of the group, it's not without a fight, depending on the situation. Like my resources are my resources; they go with me. Just like my kids and my wife, they go with me. If and I don't foresee this happening, that type of scenario, but I do see like a neighborhood situation where that happens, where I absolutely see a neighborhood saying, "Oh, well, people who aren't prepared, everyone needs to put all their stuff together, and we need to ride this out together." 100%, I call BS on that. Kick bricks. Like I cannot support everybody. It's not my job. It's not my responsibility, and it's not my stewardship. Right? Each person is responsible for their household. That's the hardest thing. And so if it gets to where I see the neighborhood going downhill and I'm not out, I'm bouncing before they can kick me out. And I'm never going to give up enough resources or supplies to make it so that I can't bounce.
Awesome. This actually kind of came up in that book 1 second after. I don't know if you've read that book, but there was in the story of the book, he actually had some people in the town that were preppers. And one of the days they kind of gathered as a town and they said, we're going to ask everybody to pool all the resources they have. Otherwise they're not going to get, and then from those resources, we'll distribute it out evenly amongst everybody. And then if you don't get any of the pooled resources. You have to you're on your own. Well, there was a family that didn't pool the resources, and they actually had enough to survive. And so they didn't have to draw from the resources of the rest of the community. So one thing is make sure that you're fully self-sufficient. That way, if you ever get in a situation like this, you can walk away and still remain self-sufficient, self-reliant. My first thing is, like already been said, is a self-reflection. Like, why did I get kicked out? If it was for reasons that I was an idiot, then you know what? Hey, I'm an idiot. I'm out. See ya. If it was for reasons that other people were idiots and they all voted me out, see ya.
Yeah.
Like, take my stuff and go. And that's going to be difficult because depending on if it's my neighborhood or if it's someplace I bugged out to and that was my place, hopefully I'll have another backup, so I think this is a great question because it now causes me to think I should always have a backup to my backup. Because if I get kicked out of that, I need to have somewhere to go. If I get kicked out, I need to have resources. I need to make sure that I need to go into, it's almost like going into a marriage with a prenup. You go into your prepper community with a prenup. Hey, by the way, contract. I'm bringing in all of these resources from before I joined the community, and they're all mine. You don't get any of them. If we get divorced at some point, I get to take everything that was mine before we joined together. And so it's kind of that whole attitude. And I in certain circumstances, I actually advise people to get a prenup. So there's reasons for it, and I think they're valid. And one of these reasons is something like this. And so I would just suggest that at some level, always be prepared to be kicked out.
Yeah.
Have it but don't self-fulfill that prophecy either. So
always be ready for that contingency.
Be ready for it as a contingency, but don't try to fulfill it and be ready, and don't just try to bounce whenever some hardship comes up. Like, I'm out. See, kick me out, please, so I can leave. No, try to, you still want to work through stuff and work diligently, but at some point you might have to realize, you know what, I got to cut my losses. And that's part of what to quit. How do you quit? How do you know when you quit the community?
Yeah. There you
know, when things are not going the way they should, and everybody wants to basically do something that's not work.
Yeah, absolutely. Work. And that's, I think, a big key to all of this is, I don't choose the easy way. I choose the hard route. I choose hard, right? I like to repeat that in my head. I choose hard, and I don't give up because something's hard. I give up because, well, there's probably a long list that I haven't written down of why I would give something up, right? There's no value there for it, right? Like I say, I think we have very little time, and I need to use that time very wisely. I just turned 53, and so time is much more precious to me right now than it ever has been, right? I've still a lot to do, and so
that reminds me,
Shane, most precious resource, most valuable resource.
So Shane, that reminds me of something that one of the leaders of our church shared a story about. He was talking to another leader of the church who was in their 90s, 80s or 90s, and said, now that you're older, like, how do you determine what to do? How do you determine, when you're 80 or 90 years old, your physicality is not that great.
Yeah.
And so this guy was younger. He's in his 60s even. So even then it's still kind of it's still kind of an old man asking an older man, how do you prioritize your physicality, like what you do? And he said, the older I get, the more I realize that I need to spend my time on the more important things. And you just learn over time, and with experience, you learn what are the things that are going to bring you the most value to the end. And I think that coincides with this comment here. Like, as I'm 50, I just turned 50. Shane, you're 53. Scott, you're the youngest of the three of us. And there's older, practicals. There's some probably people listening that are older than me and Shane. And you'll agree with this, I'm sure, as you listen, that the more you realize that I can only do so much now. My muscles don't work the same they used to when I was 20. My endurance isn't the same as when I was in my 20s. So I have to be smarter about how I do things and more strategic about how I do things versus just, grabbing and, I'll muscle it and go through it. Now I have to think about it. My neighbor knocked on the door the other day and said, "Hey, Paris, can you help me lift something?" And I'm like, I woke up with a sore back today. I'll do my best. So I strategically moved. I didn't just manhandle it. I actually was like, okay, I need to be careful with my back. I need to be, wary about things because they don't work the same. And the older you get, the more you realize there's certain things that really mean and bring value. And that's where we should focus our time. And I think it comes with wisdom. And if you're smart and you're wise as a younger man, you'll listen to the wisdom of what older men have learned and gone through, and women, and apply that early. And you'll probably get a lot more out of life. You'll probably get a lot further out of life than most of those people that are mentoring you, if you'll listen carefully and you'll apply those things. Because I think that's huge. We all, when we're young, we think I still tease my teenagers. I'm like, hey, I need to ask you a question while you're still a teenager and you know everything, because as soon as you move out, you're gonna realize you don't know everything. So there's that joke of, oh yeah, they're teenagers. Ask them while they're a teenager because they know everything. And we just don't. We just need to know. And that's part of the difference of becoming wise and having wisdom, is learning how to do that with your time.
And I think also part of that for me is obviously when I'm younger, I'm unbreakable, right? I can't be beat, right? I'm never going to get hurt. I'm never going to die. And now my mortality is much more obvious. I still have that idea, the mentality to a certain extent, but much more real. And I'm trying to, I guess, to come to terms with that. I'm not unbreakable. I still believe that I am. Love that movie, one of my favorite movies. And so that drives a lot of my priorities right now too,
So I think we can learn a lesson really quickly. I don't know if you remember, but Indiana Jones, remember the scene where the swordsman comes out and he goes, yeah, does the whole sword thing, and he just pulls out his gun and shoots him.
Yeah.
Apparently, Harrison Ford was really sick, and he was just like, I can't do a fight scene. Can I just shoot the dude?
Yeah.
And so that's, to me, it's like, yeah, do you want to go fight everybody, or do you want to just shoot them and get it over with? Like, that's another way of learning when to quit. Like, yeah, I don't have time to go punch you in the nose. I'm just going to shoot you. Not that I recommend shooting people, but I'm just saying that was kind of a funny scene that's iconic in the movie now. And it wasn't even written that way. It was written for him to actually have a full blown fight, but he's like, I'm too sick. I got to just take this guy out.
Well, a couple different things. First, I love this quote from whoops, I clicked on the wrong one. Rebecca, that's great too. Sandra, have excellent discernment. We have to work on that as a people. Like, and you innately have certain levels of discernment. That's the gut check, right? Oh, that feels like a bad situation. Avoid it. That feels like a bad guy. Avoid them, right? That is key. Like, our system, right, that we live in is everything's written down in charters and contracts and law. But if there's no one to back that up, no one gives a dang, right? People don't give a dang what the law is. They care about themselves, especially in a survival situation. But if you really want to dig deep into it, look at the quote. Everyone says, "Oh, blood is thicker than water," and they think, "Oh, blood is family and water is everyone else." No. The full quote is, "The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb," meaning that those bonds forged through shared experiences, through trials and tribulations, that loyalty is stronger than family ties.
I like that.
Right.
Yeah.
That's why you see any soldier group and any military group, like my brother-in-law has his friends from the military, and I've got some buddies who've got friends from the military. No matter how good a friend I am to those people, I will never be a brother like their military friends, the ones they served with in the front lines or in bunkers, right? That blood is thicker than anything else I've ever seen. And we need to develop that type of thickness, that type of bond with our community if we're going to build it. If you're not going to get that thick, then what kind of community strength do you really have? And that's hard. I think that's one of the hardest things to do in our ease of society. So many people aren't willing to sacrifice anymore for something that great. But when you're on the front lines and your rifle and your buddy has his rifle and you're both fighting against death, you forge a bond thicker than anything else out there.
Yeah, trauma bonds are huge.
They're huge. That reliability on each other, that strength, right? Those are the types of groups that they'll last. The rest of us, if we're just trying to make, oh, you're a prepper too, okay, let's be best buds and build a bunker together, and that's when you might get kicked out, right? Oh, 3 seconds to nuke. Hey, go check on this real quick, and they right round in the back. You have got to go through trials and tribulations with people as part of your vetting process. You've got to take them and go do hard stuff before you're willing to open up to them, right? And vice versa. Like, you've got to be quiet. Like and then it goes back to the spirit of discernment. Like, I won't open up to most people about a lot of the stuff I do. I will not. But to you two, I open up a ton, right? More than I do to family other than my wife and kids, right? You're my only safe space, but you're also like, we're all so far apart, we can't really be a good network for when things go sideways, unless somehow we're near each other. But because of discernment, I know that information is safe. I know that I'm safe with you. And also because we have bled together. Not to the extent of we're fighting Al Qaeda side by side, right? But we lifted a Quonset together.
Yeah.
I hurt myself. I bled. I have blisters from that day. That was one of the best freaking days that I spent with you guys ever.
Good day.
Because it hurt. Because it was hard. And because we laughed our way through it. Those are the types of trauma bonds you've got to start building now with your community. Otherwise, your community is at great risk to be completely upended and you be kicked out. Right. And identifying the people with bad intent, for example, the bone to pick people who have this bone to pick with everything are never the people to include in your group. If they're always at odds with something or someone, preferably if they're at odds with someone, then you don't want them because they're going to continually. That's an indicator that's not someone to align with. If they're always fighting a fight, there's not always a situation that needs to be a fight. Not every conversation needs to be an argument or a fight. If that's who they are, that's not who you want. Because when there's no one else left to fight, they're going to fight you.
And the old adage, if you live by the sword, you die by the sword.
Yeah.
So you got to remember too that can be easily turned.
Yeah. Few maybe last thoughts. I've got in the house, we have dish towels and shower towels and such, and eventually they wear out, right? And then they go to the garage, right? I look at that as, some would say I'm retiring this it to become a rag. And no, to me, I say, no, I'm graduate. It has graduated, right? From being a simple towel to go into the garage to a higher purpose, you know? So that's kind of the way I see this kind of giving up, right? I'm not giving up. I'm graduating. I'm not retiring, you know, because the retirement, you know, it kind of says I'm stepping back, you know, I'm going away or whatever. But no, I'm going to graduate from that part of my life into another part of my life, right? And so that's kind of the mindset that I have. It may be a little silly, but that's just kind of the way I think that. I had another one, but I lost it.
Well, I think it's important to recognize what's bringing you value in your life and what's not. And you're not really quitting something if it's not bringing you value. You're just moving on to something that's more, but it's fun to call it quitting. So it makes for a great title and headline. And
yeah, there we go. Yep.
Strategic distancing or strategic dropping of duties. I don't know. I got nothing on that one.
Well, you just got to quit the right things and learn how to procrastinate the right things, put things off that you don't need to be doing. Like the important things, do right away. The things that are unimportant. I think Stephen Covey has the 4 quadrants. He's the important and urgent, and then the urgent and unimportant, and then not urgent and important, and or not urgent and unimportant. And so figure out what those things are in your life and do the first things first and what you're supposed to do, and then get rid of the rest of it. If it doesn't get done and it was on that unimportant, unurgent list, don't beat yourself up about it. You know,
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to pivot and make new choices and not have to beat yourself up about it too. I think that's another important part of this, is that if you learn how to quit the right things, and you do, then move forward in faith. You know, hey, I got rid of some stuff that I shouldn't be doing. Like, and that's part of repentance too in the Gospels. You know, sometimes we need to get rid of some of the bad habits that we have and move forward and with better ones.
Well, that's what repentance is you're course correcting.
Yeah.
Right? You're changing from a bad way to a good way. And doing the things wrong is painful. Doing things and making mistakes, also painful, but easier to learn from. Right. And I think the bigger thing is just always be learning, always be testing your limits, always be course correcting. And more than anything, stay close to God, because there have been times in my life where discernment has saved my life.
Yeah, that's legit.
You can't always tell who's the good guy and who's the bad guy. Movies give us this distorted view because they always have ominous music.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the bad guy, right? Scar shows up on the scene and Mufasa, they're like, and there's darkness and no, bro. Like, no, it's not always rainbows and sunshine for the good guys and ominous darkness and music for the bad guys. Like, you've got to be thoughtful in everything. You've got to be wise as a serpent and harmless as a dove, right? Isn't that what we're taught in the New Testament? You've got to be wise. You've got to be shrewd. You've got to be always aware. I can't say it enough. Always put yourself in a position where you're less of a target. Always put yourself in a position where you can defend yourself. Always put yourself in a position where you can see what's going on better, right? Have the high ground. Prepping helps give you that, but you've got to put everything into practice to actually be able to maintain that. Totally just derailed me. Thank you. Practical. I'm just thank you, Practical. Scott, don't you hear that ominous music when you see a bad guy on the streets? I don't. I have alarms that go off. It's I guess it's ominous. In my head, it's like bad guy, but I guess it could be like right, the red alert. But yeah, like, you've got to keep yourself awake, keep yourself aware, keep focusing on your mind and mindset. Like, over the next few months, I'm testing my limits more and more, and I think all of us need to do that more and more often. Practical actually pointed out that he did it for like 36, 37 days of starvation, like, just to see how he do. I'm like, dude, that's awesome.
Just don't call it starvation, call it fasting.
There you go.
Right? That's a big difference if you ask me. But yeah, I was also going to say is that I guess I'd like to end with a challenge, right? Ask yourself some hard questions. What do I need to give up on, right? I ask myself that question on a regular basis. Do I need to give this up? Do I need to give that, and graduate or move this way or move that way? I'm always trying to reflect on what's next, because I don't believe that being stuck in a rut is necessarily a good thing, right?
It's not. It puts you.
It could be because sometimes that rut saves you from sliding off the road, right?
But it's a learning curve if you're accepting it. But the other thing is if you stay stuck in a rut, you're not learning anything, and you're staying in a fight or flight situation, which hurts your critical thinking ability, right? That's why it's so important to, when things are good, plan everything out and start practicing it.
What's interesting along those lines, Shane, is I saw somebody that used Chat GPT for something like that, like a self-reflection. They actually went to Chat GPT and they said, hey, Chat GPT, I want you to ask me a series of questions as though you're helping me determine some of the things that I'm delusional about myself. And they asked Chat GPT to kind of be a psychologist for them and ask them insightful questions and meaningful questions, and then to like boil it down to a few things they could do to actually change. And then they even said, in the process of this, make sure that you give me affirmations, help me to, realize what I'm doing wrong or what I need to change, and then help give me positive reinforcement to make the changes. And as I'm making the changes, that I'll be strong enough to continue to make those changes. And I thought that was really interesting. Like sometimes we have trusted friends that can tell us if we're delusional or not. And sometimes we have family that will tell us that. But to use Chat GPT, I hadn't thought of that. What an interesting thing. And I think self-reflection is always good. The more self-aware someone is, or is in my life, the more I've met with people that are self-aware, the quicker they are to be open to wisdom and to change and to just really finding out what's really true and what's really available. It's the folks that just kind of put on the blinders, focus in, they get a hill and they're going to die on it, that are just like, bro, I can't save you. You're not savable. Like you can't do it. So that's a great challenge, Shane. Self-reflect, take time to go through, do a little personal inventory. What are some things you're doing in your life that are good? Keep doing those. One thing that I say, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. If you like what you're getting, keep doing it. If you don't like what you're getting in life, then that means that there's something that you're doing that's getting you that result that you don't like. So change that, whatever it is, change that what you're doing so that you can get a different result. And I think that's goes right in line with your challenge.
So here's the fun thing. I'm not a big fan of AI, and I'm bothered that it's all over our searches. I learned this today. A news outlet did a thing yesterday, and I stumbled across it today. You can actually throw a cuss word into your search on any search index. Google now has everything, gives you an AI response first. Throw a curse word in there, and it doesn't know what to do, so it doesn't give you any AI responses. And it just gives you the search engine back.
Interesting.
Test it out. Go have fun. That's your assignment this week.
Do a search with an F word in it and see.
Maybe don't dirty up your conversations with people, but dirty up your conversation with Google.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Kind of along. I was listening. I heard a quote today that was kind of powerful, and I said, maybe your life isn't falling apart. Maybe it's falling into place. Well, if there's no final thoughts from you guys, I'll go ahead and close this out with thank you so much for listening, everybody who's been on the live with us. We've had a great audience, great interactions back and forth, great comments, great some fun ones. Thank you so much for being with us and on the show. If you're listening later on a podcast platform of some kind, please take a minute to give us a 5-star review if you feel like we deserve it. We'd love to have more reviews. Like to see if we can get to 100 reviews on Apple. I think we're at 60, 70, somewhere in there. And so it'd be fun to have 100 reviews or more on that. But go check out our friends at survivalfrog.com. Use code PrepperTalk10 to get a discount there from anything that you purchase on Survival Frog. Have a great night, guys. We'll talk to you on the next one.
See you next week.
Good night, Al. Great show.